I, 35M, convinced my wife into an open relationship. I want to close it now, but she refuses to. This is not what I want. This is not what I planned, and I've just got to say, I do not understand. Ever since my wife pushed out our two kids, 2 years old and 9 months old, I think she's gotten fat and ugly. I'm just not attracted to her anymore. She's not the woman I married. All of the podcasts say that men are just not built for monogamy. It's not in our DNA. And they make a really good point. Plus, I really wanted to fuck my coworker. So I brought up the concept of an open marriage to my wife. She flat out refused, even after I explained the benefits to her. So finally I informed her that if she didn't agree, I'd have to file for divorce, because it's important that my needs are met too. She finally saw reason and agreed, and I texted my coworker to set up a date. We immediately started a sexual relationship, and I felt so fulfilled. My wife didn't go out right away. For the first couple of weeks, she cried a lot and asked me to reconsider the open relationship. There were even times when she'd be manipulative and asked me to cancel dates because she needed my help around the house. I saw right through it and told her that she never needed that much help before now, and that her mind games aren't cute. She cried nonstop for days after that, but I just figured she needed time to adjust to the new normal. She did adjust, and that's where the problem started. 2 months ago, she tells me out of the blue that I'll need to stay home with the kids on Friday because she'll be out on a date. Immediately, it felt like the wind had been knocked out of me, but I said okay. I figured she'd only be out for a little bit. She's almost 30, a wife, and she has 2 kids. In women's standards, she's past her prime. But she didn't get home until noon the next day. Her hair was a mess, her makeup was smudged, she was carrying her shoes, and it must have been a long time since she's worn heels because she was walking unsteady. This started becoming a regular thing. Almost every weekend she was out on dates. Meanwhile, I was stuck at home with the kids. My coworker only wanted a brief fling, and every woman I met on Tinder unmatched me after 2 hours. My wife has become a different person. She changed her hair, bought new sexier clothes, and she walks around happy and smiling all the time. I even caught her twerking to a Megan Thee Stallion song. I didn't even know she could move like that. I asked her to show me who she's been seeing, and what she showed me almost made me vomit. There were scores of men in her messages begging to take her out. She even went out with some rapper that apparently loves MILFs, Low Gravy Boat or something. When I went out with my friends to a bar, I decided to vent about the situation. My closest friend said that he felt bad for me, and if the situation was bothering me that much, he'll cancel his date with my wife next weekend. What the fuck? I asked the rest of them if they'd been out with my wife as well, and they just looked around sheepishly, with one of them muttering that he'd knocked her walls down like Jericho, which made them all laugh and start talking about how good my wife was in bed. I saw red and stormed out. When I got home, I demanded my wife to end her relationships and that we were going back to being monogamous. She said no, and that I was the one who wanted this. I told her my needs had been met, and that I just wanted her now. She looked at me and started laughing hysterically, and in between laughs, she told me to be fucking for real. I'm not sure what to do. She's still going out on dates, and I cry myself to sleep every time she's out. Not even 5 minutes ago, I heard her on the phone with her best friend saying she was going to get her back cracked like a glow stick tonight. This was all a mistake. How can I get things back to the way they were and save my marriage?
Here is just weird shit that I would do that would for some reason really piss my exes off. So I have a Cartier bracelet that I got as a present, kind of. But for some reason, that bracelet triggered the shit out of my ex. He would always be like, that's so fake. It's so fucking fake. And I think it's because like another man gave it to me. And I'd be like, no babe, it's literally not fake whatsoever. Like I see that it says Cartier engraved on it. It's not fake. I had it for a year. Like it's not fake. I'm 100% positive it's not. And he was just like, no, it's fake. Like, you don't know anything. He also was just like so fucking weird. Like, he always bragged about being rich. And like, ladies, little FYI, if they brag about being rich, they're probably fucking poor. Because no rich person is gonna sit there and be like, I'm so rich, because that's fucking weird. One day I lied to him and I was like, I just went to the Cartier store to like make sure it was real. And the guy was like, yeah, it was real. And he was like, well, that guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Like, he just really wanted this bracelet to be fake, and I don't know why. The other ex was like, why the fuck do you have Snapchat. He's like, Snapchat is only for hoes. Cause like he had recently just like deleted his Snapchat. So he was like, you need to delete yours too. I'm like, Snapchat is not just for hoes. Like Snapchat is literally for bitches that are in college and have friends that are out of state and they want to stay in college. Like what? But I kept my Snapchat for a while, and every day he would be like, Snapchat's for hoes, Snapchat's for hoes. I'd be like, can you calm the fuck down over there? Like, I'm literally only Snapchatting my friends. Like, maybe you're the hoe, and that's the reason that you need to delete Snapchat, because you couldn't stop yourself from being a wild fucking slut on Snapchat. But that has nothing to do with me, and that's not my issue. But I kept Snapchat for a while, because I thought it was funny that I was pissing him off. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I just also didn't want to be told what the fuck to do. Wasn't being a hoe on Snapchat. Clearly the relationship was just, like, not great. Every day this man would look at me and be like, Snapchat's for hoes, and I'd be like, okay, fuck off. This same ex would be so pissed that I would dress up for Halloween. He was like, why? We're not celebrating Halloween. Why the fuck are you dressing up? And I would be like, well, because I want to look like a slut. I'm already wifed up in this relationship I shouldn't even be in. I want to go out and literally look like a little bit of a whore with my friends. Like, not even that big of a fucking whore. Like, you can't dress up for Halloween. Like, you can't do that. And I was like, what? That's so oddly specific. It'd be like July and he'd be like, you can't dress up for Halloween. And I'd be like, okay, I'm literally not going to. I'm like, babe, even if I dress like a nun, he's like, that could be taken the wrong way. I'm like, okay, you're fucking crazy. Yes, he just like really hated Halloween. My one ex hated anytime I listened to Kanye West or like Lil Uzi Vert. Why do I feel like Lil Uzi? I don't know why I said his name like that. And this was like 2018, before anything with like Kanye really like now I'm like, okay, like I get it, but like in 2018, I'm like, the man really, I'm like, are you a Taylor fan? Like, why can I not listen to Kanye? It's like, that's the devil's music. Like, yeah, that's just like the devil's music. And I was like, what the, it was like, when I first met you, I swear to God, you were blasting Good Life. Like, what the fuck is happening? I also used to have my yitties pierced, and like, when he found that out, you would have thought I fucked his dad in front of him 5 times. Like, disappointment and just like, why the fuck did you have him pierced? So upset that I was like, okay, it's really like not that big of a deal. Like, no one's seeing this besides you and I, babe. Ex would always be like, you have to wear a bra at all times, like especially when you're around my friends. I'm like, you act like I just like walk around and I like look at your friends and I'm like, hey Tommy, want to see my titty? Like, I don't do that. I'd be like, especially around my teammates, like you have to wear a bra. Like, why, babe? Scared I'm gonna fuck your teammates? Like, don't piss me off, because I will. No, like I would never. I would never. The way I saw this grown man cry about me having my yitties pierced was absolutely pathetic and weird. But that's what I get for dating insecure ass men. But that is the story time of pretty normal things that I did that my weird ass fucking exes like just had a heart attack over at all times. Like, relax. Like, it's not normal for you to cry about me having my yitties pierced.
My boyfriend of 1 year left me because I have periods. Okay, so exactly what the title says. It's been a few weeks and I'm still so baffled and hurt. I don't know what to think. We had a future plan together. We were in the process of renting a place together too. He always seemed to be grossed out by women hygiene commercials, tampons, anything that had to do with periods and women's health. I didn't think much of it since he had been nothing but caring and loving and found it funny sometimes. I called him childish and I'd laugh about it. He would either change the topic or just said that it wasn't that funny. We've been staying in each other's houses a lot and never had sex since this one time we got all touchy. Then I stopped him when we were getting to it. He backed off and asked if everything was okay and if I'm uncomfortable. I said no, it's just I'm on my period. Dead silence. He asked me, quote, for how long? And I was like, what do you mean? He then backed away further from me and sat silent, sometimes looking at his phone. I got sad and confused, so I laid down next to him, hoping for some cuddles. Try not to make it more awkward by saying something, so I was keeping silent. Nothing. Then he spoke. He said I should do something about it, and it completely ruined the mood for him. He told me he heard there's pills that make periods go away, and everyone uses them, so why can't you? I told him that's not true and that the pills have major side effects, which I don't want to take because my periods aren't at all heavy and I rarely get cramps. After hearing about them being heavy, he became completely disgusted. He told me he didn't want anything to do with it and to fix my problems. I wasn't even angry. I was just hurt and shocked. It was my boyfriend, my beloved, saying stuff like that to me. I fell asleep crying and hurt that night. It sounded so stupid, yet so embarrassing and hurtful. After 3 days of absolutely no feelings, just a hug saying saying goodbye to him in the morning, he was supposed to leave. He sent a text saying he has been thinking about me. He told me he does so much for us. Why can't I just fix my periods so it doesn't have to be such a problem? I told him he was making it a problem and that he should be real and not childish. He completely disagreed and called me selfish. The next morning, he dumped me over a text. It's almost as if the love wasn't there. I've been crying a lot, having panic attacks. I was so sure he was the one. This sounds so stupid, I can't believe it. So yeah, I don't want advice. I'm over him. I just wanted to rant on how some people are completely ignorant.
Flight attendants and commercial pilots of Reddit. What's the most obnoxious thing someone has ever done on one of your flights? My husband travels all the time and he just told me this story on his most recent trip back to Hawaii. While he's waiting to board the plane, he's noticing a distinct smell of body odor. He's doing the whole wait, shit, is that me? Panic, trying to surreptitiously sniff his own armpits, when he notices that a bunch of the other people waiting are all doing the exact same thing. Figuring that it's either someone else, or that there is, like, a stockpile of raw onions nearby, he stops thinking about it, until they board. Because of all his Delta miles, he's in first class, in the L seat. He sits down, and pulls out a book. The window seat next to him is empty, and stays that way for a while, so he's thinking, cool, empty row. Then, just as boarding is finishing, suddenly, this horrible, pungent smell just fills the cabin. It's so bad that he said literally every passenger in first class reacted, snapping their heads up to see what in the smelly hell just walked on the plane. It was a youngish woman, probably late 20s, early 30s, very hippie chick style, wearing sort of a flow white top over a tank top, and she smelled like she had not bathed in days. Seriously, best guess is that she'd spent a week at a sweat lodge, and hadn't cleaned herself since. And, of course, she plopped herself down right next to my husband. Now, like I said, he's a seasoned traveler, so he's used to a lot, and his tolerance is pretty effing high, but he said this woman's smell was so bad that his eyes immediately started watering. The flight attendant came over, and the woman ordered a Mai Tai, then she pulled out a book, and started highlighting passages. Meanwhile, call buttons are beginning to light up like crazy, with pretty much every other passenger on the plane being all, oh, hell no about being stuck in a metal box from Hawaii to LA, with someone who smells like she effed every member of Fish back in 2006, and vowed to never bathe again. Anyway, over the next 15 minutes while this woman sits there reading obliviously, my husband watches as the poor flight attendants have multiple whispered, nervous conversations at the front of the plane, all the while staring at this smelly lady. My husband is alternating between texting me in horror and making eye contact with the attendants, and he's doing the wide eyes of terror at them, and they're nodding at him and wide-eyeing right back. By this time, my husband is nervous that he's going to get a migraine because the smell is so overwhelming, and people nearby are wrapping shirts around their faces to combat the odor. Finally, the gate agent approaches. She asks the woman to follow her to the front, where apparently, they gave her some soap and a new shirt, and sent her into the bathroom. A few minutes later, she emerged wearing a new shirt, but still smelling atrocious. They gave her soap, but no instructions. My husband texts miserably. Can't they see she doesn't know what to do with it? Soap is hard for her. She sits back down, and promptly orders another drink. Another few minutes pass, with more wide-eyed silent help me face from my husband, as well as increasingly not so silent complaints from other passengers nearby, until finally, it becomes apparent that if action isn't taken, there's going to be a big ol' mutiny in the first class of a Delta plane. At this point, two agents approach the row. Now, this lady had the window seat and my husband was in the aisle, so this entire conversation had to take place with him awkwardly in the middle, pressing himself against his seat back. But the agents lean in and tell the woman that, sorry, she just can't ride on the plane, she smells too bad, and she's not fit to fly. She's incredulous, and keeps saying, just because you think I smell? And this sounds like a lawsuit to me. Meanwhile, the agents are being as friendly as they can be, explaining that they will happily put her up in a hotel for the night so she can take a shower, but that they can't allow her to board another Delta plane until she's cleaned herself off. She didn't make that much of a scene, and they all gathered her things and walked off together. The best part, though, was that right before she stood up, she complained that she had an important meeting back in LA, and absolutely had to fly out that afternoon. In response, one of the attendants smiled and brightly said, well, we can't help you, but I think there's still room on a United flight. My husband said it was one of the most surreal travel experiences ever. Redditors who have nearly been murdered but talked your way out of it. What did you say to your would-be killer that saved your life? I am a motorcycle rider. Just over a year ago I purchased my Cena 20S and at the time, it met all my expectations. Great sound quality for music, clear calls, and contact with my fellow riders. Little did I know that one day it would save my life. On February 28, 2016 around 9:30 p.m. I came home from a ride. I got off my bike in the driveway where I was met by a man with a gun who had broken into my home. He demanded I enter the house and as I approached the door, threw my cell phone onto the ground. As I crossed the threshold I was forced to the ground and my hands and feet were bound with phone cord. The intruder resumed his vicious ransacking of my house while I lay there in my helmet wondering what was going to happen to me when he was done. Sometime later my roommate pulled up and parked his car in the garage. The intruder ran out the front door to confront him. I heard a scuffle outside for a few minutes after which my roommate was forced into the house, bloodied, beaten and then bound in a separate room for myself. The destruction of the house continued once again. He discovered the safe, pistol, and rifle cases, violently demanding the keys and combinations while kicking my roommate. He began speaking irrationally about how he was looking for child corn and assault rifles, how someone sent him to our house months earlier and he had been watching the house for a couple days. He was going to hold us for about 2 days while he cleaned up his fingerprints and burned parts of the house to get rid of any DNA. He would then drive us to the middle of nowhere and leave us for dead. While he was spending time into the back room attempting to break into the safe, I was able to break one of my hands free and turn my Cena on. The moment the Cena said phone connected, I had a small glimmer of hope. The noise of the intruder breaking into the safe granted me an opportunity to access the voice command speed dial system on the Cena. Whispering quietly, I didn't necessarily care who it ended up calling, I just prayed for anyone to answer. My father, who is 3 hours ahead on the Eastern time zone, answered and I repeatedly whispered 911, 911, 911. He eventually replied back to me 911, confirming he knew there was a problem. I then started repeatedly whispering my address, at which point the intruder came around the corner and yelled at me, "What's that noise?" I told him it's just the radio playing in the helmet and I can't turn it off. He proceeded to take a hammer to the side of my helmet while it was still on my head, destroying the Cena. He grabbed the remains and threw them in the toilet. He then started a fire in the fireplace to burn random items from around the house, including his own shoes, which he replaced with the shoes directly off my feet. My father eventually tried calling back, but when my cell phone rang, the intruder smashed it with the hammer and threw it in the fire as well. The police finally arrived and noticed the blood on ground from the scuffle and called for backup. The intruder became nervous. He unbound me and instructed me to answer the door and send the cops away. I agreed, stood up and approached the front door. The police were shouting, "Local police department, open the door," over and over again, and my roommate shouted back from the other room, "We are in here," repeatedly. The intruder ran to the other room to silence my roommate. I reached out and opened the door to 5 or 6 officers with weapons drawn. I ran out into the front yard yelling hostage with my hands up, hoping no one would shoot. As I was about to be restrained, behind me the intruder slammed the door. The police quickly withdrew back to the street. I was escorted by an officer as fast as possible to the street, barely able to keep my footing as we moved, dragged through the front lawn and placed in the back of the squad car. I updated them on the situation inside the house and how to distinguish between my roommate and the intruder. The local SWAT team was called in to secure the house. After another 2 hours or so, my roommate was finally able to escape his bindings and make his way out of the house, beat up but safe. The intruder ended up escaping out the back door of the house somewhere in that 2-hour window of time. The entire ordeal lasted around 6 hours. The suspect has been found in jail from unrelated charges and was linked to the case with evidence found at my house. 617. After a year of bullshitting the court system with an attempt at getting off on mental disorder and the state psych hospital saying he is fit to stand trial, he was sentenced to prison with 26 years plus. You gain the ability to stop time. What do? I would become effing Anarchy God. Here's how. Step 1. I would learn everything. Assuming internet doesn't work because the electricity is frozen with time, I would read and memorize every book. I would also document the nature and laws of time being frozen. Let's assume anything inanimate I directly touch becomes unfrozen: clothes, doors, air, etc. Not people. Step 2. Get the media after me. I would do this by auditioning for AGT. I would use my various skills to work my way up the chain until the final round. While waiting between auditions, I would cause minor havoc, like unexplainable things disappearing. In the final round, I pretend I'm going to be performing singing. I sing horribly and midway I stop abruptly and cut the music. This is an act, and I am the judge. Lights cut and all doors lock. Security are placed elsewhere. All cameras are forced on me with a spotlight. So tell me, Earth, can you win the golden buzzer? I make a golden star button appear in my hand. Or will you become another victim? You have 1 year. I freeze time and watch as everything unfolds on TV. Everyone freaks out. Some say it's the end of times, others say it's all a hoax. Regardless, I'm not a top story yet. So I wait until a prime minister gives a speech. I appear in the background behind the important figure for long enough to be noticed, but disappear before security catches me. I leave behind a golden star sticker where I was standing. Step 3. I wait 6 months. Every time there are doubts, I break the left arm of someone and put a golden star sticker on it. The left arm is meant to throw people off. As time goes on towards the 6-month mark, the arm breakings become less frequent and people slowly calm down. But on the 6-month mark, I kill another higher power and leave a golden star sticker on their head. Step 4. I wait until the day before the 1-year mark. Other than the occasional left arm break, I stop all activity. The day before the 1-year mark, I watch as people become scared. Then, at exactly 4 p.m., I kill all of the world leaders, prime ministers, the Pope, etc. Everyone wonders what worse I will do on the next day. Step 5. The day of the 1-year mark. Countries are in defensive position. Media is in hysterics. Civilians are unable to remain calm. 4 p.m. approaches and I hack every computer so everyone is watching me as I stand on the White House's roof and speak, holding a golden star button. Well, hello again, Earth. It's been a year and I have finally made my decision about your planet. Pause for a good 10 seconds while smiling maniacally and hovering over the button. Suddenly I press it. You've won a prize. Meet your new leader. I then disappear and the White House is covered in golden star stickers. I wait for another week and kill anyone who tries to enter a prime minister position. Step 6. 1 week later I bring about the next major step in my plan. I collect the world's smartest people and force them to work for me. Of course, I give them astounding living conditions and make them feel more inclined to work. I have them create immortality. After I gain immortality, I kill the scientists. Step 7. Wait. I wait for everyone to mostly forget me, to the point where some are uncertain of my existence. Many years. I still make sure there's no global destruction or mass death, but overall I stay hidden. Step 8. The reveal. I claim to be a goddess wanting to help humans. After showing people all the good I can do, I make it so they worship me. I have everyone advance space travel and invent ways for me to obtain godlike powers. I become a literal god that can create and destroy whatever whenever. But what about when I get tired of living? What if I want to die? Eternal sleep.